Hello everyone, Loremaster of Sotek here, and this is not going to be a super terribly long video, but I did want to make a video about it because it is pretty interesting information. So for those of you who don't kind of like keep up on the subreddit or with like rumors or whatever that comes out for Total War Warhammer related stuff, every once in a while people manage to find ways to catch on to things that Creative Assembly is up to before it's kind of officially announced or officially revealed in some senses. This is usually through things like digging through the files of the game on Steam or looking for changes to the game that are like in the SteamDB files, or looking on IMDB for actors or actresses that are getting accredited for things that maybe have not necessarily been revealed yet. So I will say, if you're someone that does not want to be spoiled and you want to just wait to see what's going to happen and you don't want any hints, you don't want to deal with any of the IMDb type things, feel free to just leave the video early. I have complete respect for that opinion, but this one is a little unique compared to kind of the usuals, which we'll get into why in a minute, which is why I'm bothering to talk about it, because normally I just ignore these. The other thing I want to say is that keep in mind that when we're about to look at this, it doesn't necessarily guarantee these kinds of things are going to happen. You know, things can change through development where they might bring someone in to do a voice, or they might work on a file in the game and then it ends up being something that gets canceled or something that ends up lying on the cutting room floor. So in that case, you know, we wouldn't ever see it come out. So don't take these kinds of reveals, so to speak, or hints as gospel. They are things that are being considered, not necessarily things that are going to happen. So, you know, don't bet all of your money on black, so to speak, when we kind of look at all these. But now that you've had your warning, so once again, you don't want to deal with little rumors or kind of, I really wouldn't call it I guess it could be kind of considered a leak, but not really, whatever. But if you don't want to be spoiled on anything, just peace out until, you know, like any actual trailers with something relevant to this comes out. But I will go ahead and start talking about it. So I'm going to have it come up on screen now somewhere. But on IMDb, we got two really, really exciting reveals. The first is one that does not surprise me at all. The second one surprises me a lot. The first is that we have gotten a credited voice actress for Nariska Lesa, who is functionally probably going to be a legendary hero for Kislev. So for those who don't know who Lesa is, she is the Golden Knight. And the Golden Knight is very briefly, I think I have the file around here somewhere, and if I do, I'll throw it up on screen. But the Golden Knight is a character that exists within the new lore of Kislev that we got through Total War Warhammer 3. And basically, you can kind of think of her as the Ludwig Schwarzhelm of Kislev. So she is a extremely gifted warrior, like an incredible warrior, who is known as the Golden Knight because it is a position that each Tsar or Tsarina has when they are sitting on the throne, where the Golden Knight is kind of like their personal champion who represents a lot of their authority and kind of almost acts as a judicial champion. So should there be a scenario where they need to kind of like send someone out to fight in their honor, or needs to like lead an army or deal with like political issues, or go fight someone that's talking smack, then this is the individual that will get sent to do that. They're not necessarily someone that would be like leading a faction by any means, because they're kind of subservient to the Tsar, the Tsarina, and are an extension of their will. So Nariska Lesa, which I'm butchering that, is Katarin's Golden Knight. And the thing that's particularly awesome about the Golden Knights is the other reason they have that kind of epithet is that they wear golden suits of armor that are supposed to be absolutely gorgeous looking. And you may think, oh, well, gold's not very good for armor. Why wouldn't they use something a little more practical? And the answer is because it's enchanted. So gold, especially like someone wearing a full suit of golden armor, is very likely going to have some kind of relationship to the faith of Daz, who is the fire / sun god of Kislev. But the gold armor is crafted as a gift to each Golden Knight. So they're not wearing, it's not like a suit that's passed down from knight to knight to knight. It is instead a completely custom fitted suit that is made for each individual Golden Knight, which means that not only is it going to look completely unique and impressive for each one of them, but it's also going to have different types of effects because it's enchanted by different individuals. So in the case of Leisa's armor, hers was crafted and then enchanted by Tsarina Katerin. So she got, one of the most powerful ice witches that's been seen for thousands of years to enchant her armor, which is probably means it's going to be a lot scarier than any of the ones that came before it. As far as what all we know about her, pretty much the only little things that we have is there is a mention of her father, who was the Golden Knight for Tsar Boris, and that, obviously he retired either recently or when Tsar Boris died. But Leisa is said to be an even greater warrior, an even greater fighter than her father was, who himself was pretty scary. I would assume he probably retired when Tsar Boris died, because I imagine when the Tsar dies and your goal is kind of protect them, that probably doesn't feel super great. But in any event, pretty much that's all we know about her. There are a couple of very, very tiny notes scattered about that may suggest that her current location is somewhere in the Empire, that she may have been sent as a diplomat to go speak with either Emperor Karl Franz himself or to treat with some of the Elector Counts for issues relating to what's going on in Kislev during when, you like start a campaign or what have you. But as far as what is she going to be, I feel pretty damn confident that she's going to be a Kislevite only legendary hero. So, where we have Ulrika acting as a legendary hero for both the Empire and Kislev, I think with Leisa, you're going to see a pure Kislevite legendary hero who's only available to the Kislevite characters, and, has all sorts of very unique benefits and interactions with them. Now, as far as when she's coming out, I feel very, very confident saying that she's going to be coming out with the update for Shadows of Change. And if Shadows of Change update is big enough that it's adding new legendary heroes, I think that's very, very exciting. Kind of one of my biggest, not my biggest, but certainly a notable letdown for me with Shadows of Change was that it only had legendary heroes for Tzeentch, and you got 2, whereas both of Kislev and Grand Cathay didn't get any. So hopefully this means that both Kislev and Grand Cathay are getting a legendary hero to kind of, have them even with Tzeentch. Because technically, what's his face? He's right here. Echold Hellbrass was a free LC. Echold Hellbrass was not actually part of Shadows of Change. He just released alongside it. Whereas the Blue Scribes are actually part of Shadows of Change. But I am very much hoping that that will be the case. That way Tzeentch, Cathay, and Kislev are equaled out. And hopefully we'll continue to see that with like generic characters and units as well. This does leave me on a pretty happy note and makes me very excited to see what Shadows of Change is going to look like. Hopefully it's just going to be lots of new units, a new legendary hero for both Kislev and Grand Cathay, which we know Leisa is probably going to be the Kislevite one. For Grand Cathay, the only character that really jumps to my mind for Grand Cathay would be Shihong. Which Shihong is the master artificer of Nangao, and he is basically like, the best way I can describe him is that he's your engineer legendary hero. Like, he's a crazy gifted artificer, so he's really good at like creating weapons, building defenses, leading the constant repairs and tweaks to like the rings of Nangao and also the Great Bastion. And the one thing we really, really know about him is that he played a pretty key role in the ongoing development of the Sky Lanterns. And he also has created his own unique version, which I cannot remember what it's called off the top of my head. Once again, for Shihong, I'll see if I can find the little loading screen tip that talks about him. And if I can, I'll put it on screen. But Shihong is supposedly has invented his own airship that's completely unique. Also, despite the fact that he's a master artificer, which implies that he works with a lot of gunpowder and range weapons, if I recall correctly, he's blind, which is very interesting. It'd be kind of hilarious to have a ranged focus black powder character who's blind, because that would be really spooky in a lot of ways. But I would love for it to be Shihong, or anybody. Could also be like maybe one of the masters of the dragon monks. We've heard mentions of the dragon monks being kind of, a very kung fu inspired concept. There's mention of some that may not exactly be like the regular dragon monks, but there are spirit monks that live, some say like below, but at least around the Spirit River, which is the river of death that connects to the Great Bastion and prevents the forces of chaos from crossing it. Because if you try and cross it, it literally sucks your souls out and you die. But they're supposed to be, Shiama, the spirit dragon, is supposed to lurk beneath the waves asleep, and her dreams make the afterlife for Cathayans, that ancestral underworld. And supposedly there are monks that are able to go down there and come back, who are supposed to tend to it and take care of matters. So maybe one of those could show up. But either way, I think that's super exciting information. Now, the other thing, which is much more surprising to me to see at this stage, is the Tigermen. So as I'll bring up the IMDB page once more right here, where you can see that there is someone credited with being Tigermen. Nili Ketin, apologize if I mispronounced that. Now, what's very interesting is she is not a voice actress. Which is why it says Tigermen, and it's very generic and bland. She is actually a stunt artist. So she's a stunt double, or someone that specializes in fight choreography. So it is very, very likely that she is going to be the mocap, or at least the heavy inspiration for what Tigermen are going to look like in motion. So how they're going to fight and how they're going to move around and stuff. And she has a lot of really cool credits in shows like The Witcher and the new Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania movie, the new Marvels movie, Loki movie, and just a ton of other stuff. But she's a fight choreographer and a stunt double. So I heavily suspect that is the reason for her being brought on, is to help with doing Tigerman animations. As far as what are the Tigerman animations going to be used for, considering this just popped up, there are two realistic options. The first option is that while Grand Cathay does not have a lot of Tigermen, there are Tigermen in Grand Cathay. If you look in the southern South Cathay, near the Mountains of Heaven, which is the mountains that are the natural border between Grand Cathay and the Kingdoms of End, there is the village of the Tigermen, which Tigermen obviously live there. And there's even mention in some of the loading screen tips about little blurbs of lore that there are 3 grand courts within Grand Cathay, which are administrative governmental bodies who are supposed to deal with various affairs around Grand Cathay and seem to control certain specific aspects. Obviously, the most important and the largest of these courts is the Dragon Court, which is the vast majority of Cathay. But there's the Monkey Court, which is ruled over by the Monkey King and made up of his warriors. And there's some pretty funny notes about how the Monkey Court is calling it that. Seems to be like most people would heavily dispute how honorable and ordered that name sounds, because apparently the Monkey Court is just a chaotic mess all the time and is kind of insane. But then there's also the Tiger Court. So the Tiger Court is the last of these little bodies. And to me, what that could indicate is that there may be, they may be taking the angle of there are Tigermen units in Grand Cathay who have like crossed over the border and are basically allied units in a sense that have come over from the Kingdoms of End and are actually like participants in the armies of Grand Cathay, which would be super interesting to see. I actually would not mind seeing Tigermen as part of the Grand Cathay roster. Obviously in the hopes that one day we get a separate full Kingdoms of End roster. You would want the Tigermen that make up the Kingdoms of End to be substantially more developed and have a lot more weapon options and be a lot like more badass and crazy, because that's where they're from. But some of them kind of leaking over into this other roster, I think, is no problem whatsoever. There are lots of armies that kind of share units between rosters. And I mean, even if you think about like the ogres, The first time we ever got ogres in Total War Warhammer was actually the Vampire Coast with the oh my gosh, I can't remember what they're called off the top of my head all of a sudden. But the undead ogres that have like various sea creatures coming out of their bodies, and they're super nasty looking, which a lot of people don't realize those are ogres. But then the next time we got ogres was at the end of Warhammer 2. They released the Ogre Mercenary update, which just added a bunch of different ogre units into the Warhammer 2 map. And then, of course, with Warhammer 3, we finally got the actual full Ogre Kingdoms roster. So this could be that they're doing kind of a similar strategy, where the first time we'll see the Tigermen is actually as part of Grand Cathay, and then maybe, hopefully, one day in the future, we'll get Kingdoms of End. Or it could even be, perhaps, that the Kingdoms of End may be being worked on this year. You know, it could be that maybe the Kingdoms of End, where the goal would be to have it as a race pack that comes out sometime late this year or early next year. And this is just kind of the first little bits we're seeing of that. I think we'll know our answer when the Shadows of Change update comes out. Because if the Shadows of Change update arrives and there's no Tigermen, then we can probably say with some, like, we can feel pretty confident about this guess, that it could be that Creative Assembly is actually working on the next race, which would be the Kingdoms of End, which I think would be extremely exciting news. But that's kind of the biggest reason I wanted to talk about this. Normally, I don't really care about these things because oftentimes we find out about them like right before or like relatively not that far from when they're actually going to come out. But with Tigermen potentially hinting at we could be seeing something related to the Kingdoms of End. But once again, it could also just be a new Grand Cathay unit with the Shadows of Change update. I just wanted to chat about it because I thought it was very interesting. But I hope you're all having a wonderful day. Trying to get lots of video stuff done for Old World lore and all that. So more to do. And I will see you when I see you. Thanks for watching.